We are always happy to talk about the books from National Geographic Kids. And at this time of the year, boy, this is more than just a little bit appropriate, huh? As we talk about the book, it's a numbers game, football. Eric Zweig is on the phone with us here this morning, and our conversation is brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Eric, this is a fun book you've got put together here.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think so. I was very impressed when I saw it as an actual book, which is always fun when you've just sort of seen it on paper over the period of working on it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about any National Geographic book, it's going to have great photographs. It's going to have lots of splashy color and things to appeal to kids. And then you add in the fact that it's football, which is America's game, even though you happen to be in Canada here
Yes.
this morning. Eric, this is so much fun to look at, though, and to get a really fresh perspective on football. And I love the fact that the foreword is written by Patrick Mahomes, and he really seems to have bought into the whole concept with what he wrote.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I saw it. I mean, we had no contact, he and I. I did a previous book for National Geographic called Absolute Expert Soccer, and I am not an absolute expert on soccer, but they paired me with a man who was a referee in MSL and American international referee, and so we did quite a lot of work together on that. But Patrick Mahomes was, their connections. National Geographic has wide reach, and the ESPN is involved with this as well. But I was looking forward to reading what he wrote and to see how much he sort of bought into the math behind football. But I thought his forward was great, and he really makes you understand that. I mean, it's not so much about math. It's not like math and science, but an appreciation of the numbers and the understanding of managing the clock and how many yards to go and how quickly we're going to have to do this. I mean, it's interesting. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it really is. And you get an idea for how, not only from Patrick's article, but from the entire book about how numbers really do play a role in not just how the game is played, but how we watch the game.
Yeah, it was interesting to me because I'm not really a numbers guy. I'm not a math guy. I was a little apprehensive when they first approached me about the concept because I like to write about the history of sports and the sort of geography, how a game spread and moved and got to the places it's currently in. And at first they had just said, don't worry, statistics is math and numbers. And so, and I had a lot of statistics, but then they did want it a little more math and sciencey, so I had to bone up myself. But it's interesting, yes, because in some ways the numbers in football are obvious. I mean, you see them on the players' sweaters. You see them along the field, on the sidelines. We all know, you're just kind of adding up the scores and the yards gained. But there is a lot of sort of hidden science, the angles players run on pass patterns, the amount of force on a quarterback throwing the ball or a blocker or a tackler. It was more than I realized, and I think that people have asked me a lot, like, well, does it help to be a math fan, to be a football fan, or will knowing about football make you better at math? And I don't know that it necessarily will, but I think it's like the kind of things that always bothered me in school, like why are they teaching me this? What are the practical applications in my life? But I think it will give you a better appreciation for math and science in the real world. I mean, whether you're going to be a scientist or an accountant, who's working with numbers. But just, in your real life, there is more math and science than we realize.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things to me about the book, too, is you go into some areas that we don't really have an idea of how things are done. For instance, and the Steelers are actually the model for this particular chapter, the Schedule Mania page, where you take a look at how teams have done in previous seasons, and you try to come up with the Pittsburgh Steelers' next season schedule based upon those numbers there. That's a really fascinating exercise.
Yeah, I mean, that one took some doing. It was funny. It was always an idea I had in my head because at the end of each chapter there's a sort of activity, and some of them are just, hey, go out and with your friends and see how fast you can run, or see how you can run your own patterns, and be sure to cut at the appropriate angles and blah blah blah. But this one I liked because I'd always known that the schedule was based on like your results from the previous season and there was a sort of rotation of, this conference from that division and that conference from this division, how it all crossed over, but actually trying to write it and make it simple. I mean, it says here that there's, what does it say, 5 different executives with hundreds of different computers to actually make the schedule. It's like, well, how are we going to make this something we can do in a 2-page spread that a 12-year-old could do in 10 minutes? But it was fun to try and to piece it all together, and I think it works. I mean, it's not, obviously the real schedule is more complicated, but this at least gives you an idea of who you're going to play in a given season, if not necessarily, week by week.
Yeah, it really is so well done. And then you break down the offenses, the defenses, how numbers will play into each of those things, what the positions are all about, what the players all do. I found the special teams section to be especially interesting. The science behind a punt, for instance. And that, as you said, you're a sports writer and you love to cover the sports, but there's some things in here you had to do some deep digging and get some help, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, fortunately, I guess enough people have written about these kinds of things before. Like there's, the world being online now, it's so much easier to research anything. But yeah, I didn't really understand like one of the harder things I had to do was just explaining the concept of pounds per square inch for a teeny little story about deflategate. But, you kind of couldn't have it without trying to make some people aware of at least what pounds per square inch is. And some of the physics of a block or a tackle. But fortunately, people who are smarter in the math and science in this than I am have written about it, and so I could read what they said and try and distill it down to a 12-year-old level.
Eric Zweig is our guest here this morning. It's a brand new book. It's from National Geographic Kids, and we actually have a couple of copies to give away to you, and we're going to do that here as football season comes along. The book is called It's a Numbers Game, Football, the math behind the perfect punt, the game-changing interception, and so much more. And one of the interesting things to me, again, Eric, about the book is that for any National Geographic Kids book, you got to put it to the test with the kids themselves. So what are they telling you after reading the book?
Well, you know what? The book is actually released today, I think. So all I've had is, the children, my kids are older than this age, the children of some of the people who helped work on the book, who have said, oh, my son really liked it, my daughter's really enjoying it. So, I'm sure they're not lying to me, but it's not the world's biggest pool to draw on. But it seems like the kids I've heard of who have seen it have been impressed and are enjoying it, so that's good to know.
It absolutely is. And I'm sure the math teachers out there are enjoying the fact as well that math is all of a sudden cool because you connected it to football.
Yeah, I hope so. There's been a few books in this series already. There's been a basketball one, a soccer one, and a baseball one, so hopefully they know what's coming. But yeah, football is the great American game, so maybe this one will have even a little more reach than those. Yeah,
certainly. Okay, so the book is indeed out today, and first hitting bookstores and Amazon and all the usual outlets. And I would assume that it's pretty easy to get your hands on it now, huh?
I would think so. I have a bunch. But yes, they all the dates, I think, was July 26th and July 28th were the sort of pre-order and order. So yeah, it should be out in the world now as we're talking.
It's big and it's colorful and it's a whole bunch of fun, and it's a chance for kids to connect up with football in a brand new way, and adults are going to get a little bit of an education out of it too. Eric Zweig, thanks so much for visiting with us today.
Well, thank you very much for talking with me.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160 and AM 1160.